This actor has a lot of nominations for almost all prestigious film awards. He has roles in films made by such cult directors as Mel Gibson, Martin Scorsese, and David Fincher. But most people still associate him only with Spider-Man. Today, on the Biographer channel, we will prove that Andrew Garfield is an underrated actor and tell you about the films with his participation. They are definitely worth your attention. For what project did he take a vow of silence? What movie was the actor dissatisfied with? And how did he get the role that millions of boys around the world dreamed of? You'll find it out very soon. But first, click on the subscription button and the bell to know first about the release of new biographies of your favorite stars. Subscribe and we'll start. Andrew Russell Garfield was born on August 20th, 1983 in Los Angeles, California, in the family of a swimming coach and kindergarten teacher. The family turned out to be international. His father, Richard, is a Californian of Jewish origin. His mother, Lynn, is an Englishwoman, a native of Essex. If you ask Andrew what religion and nationality he defines himself to be, he will answer Jew, agnostic, pantheist. His great-grandfathers came to the UK from Russia, Romania, and Poland, and the now famous surname once sounded like Garfinkel. Andrew was only 3 years old when his parents decided to move from America to England, and the future actor spent all his childhood and youth in Epsom, Surrey. In England, the parents decided to open a small family business. It was a firm specializing in interior design. Garfield was interested in everything: swimming, gymnastics, stamp collecting, and he was seriously going to open his own business and earn a lot of money. But that was only until cinema and theater came into his life. Little Andrew began his education at the Priory Preparatory School. Then he entered the prestigious City of London Freeman School. There was no emphasis on creativity in the boy's education. He had a standard set of knowledge like ordinary children had. However, at the age of 15, Garfield began to be interested in acting and joined a theater group. The boy took lessons in stage acting and speech techniques, participated in plays and musicals. A simple, at-first-sight hobby began to grow into something greater. Then our hero went to study acting at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in London. Andrew was not just studying. He was so passionate about acting that he tried to get the most out of his studies. Andrew remembered how at the age of 19 he bought a pirated CD with Spider-Man and watched it 2 times in a row. The film impressed him so much that a guy with a friend started acting out scenes from it in front of a mirror. Then he decided that someday he would play Spider-Man. As you know, he succeeded, although fans still argue to this day whose performance of Spider-Man is the coolest: Maguire, Holland, or Garfield. What about you? Write in the comments which of them you like the most. Let's see whose fans are more among us. In the meantime, Andrew was still a long way from a big movie. He tried himself on the stage. Immediately after graduation, he made his debut in his first performances. In 2004, there were productions of Mercy at the Soho Theatre and of Kess at the Royal Exchange Theatre. These were minor roles, but critics immediately noticed the talented newcomer. Garfield received his first award, the Men Theatre Award. In the Royal Exchange Theatre, by the way, he played one of the most cherished roles of any actor, Romeo. A few more successful theatrical roles, and our hero had the award of the Evening Standard newspaper as the most outstanding theatrical newcomer of the year. On the theater stage, Andrew was doing fine, but that was not enough for an ambitious young actor. He was going to conquer cinema and television. Like many Hollywood stars, he started with a role in a TV series. Sugar Rush became an excellent starting point. It was about the difficult life of British teenagers. The multi-part series received an Emmy Award, and a novice film actor with a bright, unusual appearance was noticed by viewers and critics, even though his role had little screen time.
There's a film, and it's on Saturday, and I'm not queer.
I don't care.
In 2006, Andrew played in several more performances and then plunged into the world of cinema for a long time. In 2007, he got the role of unemployed Frank in the cult television series Doctor Who. They joked about that series, which started back in 1963, that any self-respecting actor should take part in it. Andrew completed that program. He was able to appear in as many as 2 episodes. By the way, many years later, Garfield's candidacy was seriously considered for the role of another doctor.
All over Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas. Solomon keeps a lookout for us.
Then Andrew got the role of Todd Hayes in the movie Lions for Lambs. Robert Redford's film consisted of 3 parts connecting in meaning. Garfield had the role of a lazy student who enjoyed life and had a great time. He didn't have time to study, and it didn't matter at all that his parents paid $40,000 a year for his education. A wise professor was trying to talk some sense into the guy, promising to give a good grade. But in exchange, a careless student should carefully listen to a cautionary tale. The film received negative reviews, and the box office was disappointing. But for the young actor, it was a chance to work with such Hollywood stars as Tom Cruise, Meryl Streep, and Robert Redford. And that was saying something. I'm just lucky to be there working on the same project as them, although I don't really expect to be recognized later by audiences. In the same 2007, the film Boy A, shot by John Crowley and based on the novel by writer Jonathan Triggle, was released. It finally reinforced Garfield's status of a talented and promising young artist. Andrew played Jack, a guy who 14 years ago killed a 9-year-old girl in cold blood, was in prison for his crime, and got out. He wanted to turn a new leaf, get a job, start a romantic relationship with a colleague, but the past did not want to let him go. For his impressive performance as Jack Burridge, the actor was awarded the BAFTA Award as the Best Actor. The film was awarded a special prize at the Berlin International Film Festival, and the jury named Andrew as the most promising talent. As proof of that, in October of 2007, Variety magazine added him to the list of 10 actors to watch. Next year, Garfield got a cameo role in Justin Chadwick's film The Other Boleyn Girl. Natalie Portman, Scarlett Johansson, Eric Bana took part in it. The cast of that historical drama of the director was full of the names of the young and promising actors. The story of the struggle of the 2 Boleyn sisters for the heart of Henry VIII turned out to be bright, but very ambiguous. Critics vilified the film for its unreliability and the fact that it looked more like a soap opera than a historical drama. In addition, some actors were accused of having no British accent. In 2009, Andrew starred in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Terry Gilliam's film had a very dramatic story. Filming was suspended due to the sudden death of the performer of one of the main roles, Heath Ledger. Later, filming restarted, and the role that Ledger couldn't finish was played by several world-famous actors at once: Jude Law, Johnny Depp, and Colin Farrell. All 3 men renounced their fees for participating in the filming in favor of Heath Ledger's only daughter, Matilda. Andrew got a small role in the film as a member of a traveling circus troupe.
Probably for you.
Finally, after a series of minor roles, he got lucky. In 2010, he played one of the founders of Facebook in David Fincher's film The Social Network. The film told us the story of Mark Zuckerberg's complex relationship with his business partners. Andrew played the role of a former friend and then enemy of Mark Zuckerberg, who came into conflict with him over the rights to the famous social network. The film couldn't be called neither documentary nor feature one. It contained many episodes of the real biography of Zuckerberg and also did not do without fiction. The Social Network did not portray Mark Zuckerberg in very flattering light, and it was not surprising that the real founder of Facebook was unenthusiastic about it. He watched the movie and was dissatisfied with various inaccuracies. Interestingly, Andrew Garfield initially auditioned for the role of Zuckerberg himself, and although Fincher clearly liked him, the director felt that it was better for Garfield to play a more responsive and emotional Eduardo Saverin. Shia LaBeouf and Michael Cera were also considered for the role of Zuckerberg, but in the end, Jesse Eisenberg got it. By the way, Eisenberg and our hero became friends on the set. They communicate to this day. According to Jesse, it was difficult for both of them to act out the dramatic rivalry between their characters. To prepare for the role, Andrew bought the book Economics for Dummies. Inspired by that step, Eisenberg bought the book C++ for Dummies. However, according to Jesse, they did not go further than the introduction. There is an interesting fact. David Fincher is known for requiring tediously long shooting processes as well as a huge number of takes. The scene in which Eduardo Saverin breaks into Facebook's office and smashes Mark Zuckerberg's laptop on the floor had about 40 takes. According to Garfield, at the end of the day, he was completely exhausted and sat on the floor during the break, wondering how many more takes of the ill-fated scene he had to do. But to the actor's relief, Fincher came up to him, shook his hand, and said, "Move on."
Mark!
He's wired in.
Sorry?
He's wired in.
Is he?
Yes.
How about now? You still wired in?
When Andrew Garfield was asked about the film years later, he told that he didn't like the film when he first watched it. He didn't hate it because of the script or because he didn't like Fincher's direction. He didn't like his own act, and his friend Jesse Eisenberg felt the same way. But they were too hard on themselves since Eisenberg was nominated for an Oscar and Andrew was nominated for a BAFTA and a Golden Globe Award. Our hero did not receive a prize, but critics spoke well of his act. Many still believe that this is one of the best films of Andrew Garfield. Later, he still received the award of the London Film Critics Circle as the Best British Supporting Actor of the Year. In the same year, Andrew appeared in the British melodrama with elements of fiction Never Let Me Go, where his colleagues were Carey Mulligan and Keira Knightley. Never Let Me Go is an adaptation of the famous novel of the same name by Kazuo Ishiguro, which was named the best novel of 2005 by Time magazine. The director of the film, Mark Romanek, said that from the moment he read the book, he was obsessed with the idea of making a film based on it. The director had made it a priority to make not a fantastic film, but a love story in which fantastic details were only an entourage. The film told about the memories of a young woman named Kathy, about her childhood in an unusual boarding school and her entire adult life. The action took place in the dystopian Britain of the late XX century, in which people were cloned to create living organ donors for transplantation. Garfield played Katie's friend Tommy. Andrew told that his Tommy was a very sensitive boy who understood and felt everything at the level of instincts. In that story, the actors raised existential questions, and he called his role a dream come true. Unfortunately, the film failed at the box office despite positive critic reviews. Never Let Me Go was nominated for the British Independent Film Award, as well for Saturn. Garfield won the Saturn Award for Best Supporting Actor.
You're very welcome to them after I finished.
Oh no, it's just sex stuff. Expect I've seen them all already anyway.
In the same year, Sony Studios announced that Andrew Garfield would become the new Spider-Man in the reboot of the franchise. That role became one of the most significant in Andrew's career. But we'll probably save its detailed analysis for later. But for now, we'll move on to other films. Since the Spider-Man franchise, Garfield had mostly avoided high-budget films and instead opted for smaller-scale dramas. In 2014, Ramin Bahrani decided to give Andrew a deep, dramatic role in his film 99 Homes. Dennis was a former construction worker who was being evicted from his home. He had to live with his family in a small room in a run-down hotel. By a strange coincidence, Rick, the man who evicted Dennis's family, offered him a job. The offer was not legitimate, but the hero needed money so much that he had no time to think about honor and conscience. The film was first shown to the general public as part of the Venice Film Festival and was positively received by most critics. However, that time, Garfield's partner, Michael Shannon, who was nominated for many prestigious awards, attracted all the attention. After that, Andrew had the opportunity to work with cult director Martin Scorsese on his film Silence. That was an adaptation of the novel of the same name by Shusaku Endo, based on real events. The actor played Sebastião Rodrigues, one of the Jesuit missionaries who dared practice their religion in 17th century Japan. Scorsese had been trying to make the film for almost 30 years. The story had become the symbolic conclusion of the director's religious trilogy, The Last Temptation of Christ, Kundun, and Silence. Symbolically, the original novel came into Scorsese's hands thanks to the first film from that trilogy, The Last Temptation of Christ. When, in 1988, the director tried to talk spiritual leaders out of the fact that the film was not directed against Christianity, he met the Archbishop of the American Episcopal Church who gave him the book. Scorsese wrote the first version of the screenplay for the film adaptation together with screenwriter Jay Cox in the early 90s, but the director categorically did not like what they made up. Colleagues decided that they had not yet comprehended that book deeply enough, so the project was postponed until better times. They returned to the film only in the mid-2000s, and they liked the second version of the script. But that time, there was a problem with financing. Only in 2015, the creators were able to reduce the budget of the film without changing the idea and find investors. Scorsese sought out actors very carefully. He needed those who fell passionately in love with the project, since getting into character would require a lot of effort. There was no point in waiting for a full feedback from those who did not want to play in silence with all their heart. Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver met that criteria. I had the feeling that I was being called to work with one of the great directors, and called to this role as something I had to pursue for my spiritual development, said Andrew Garfield. The preparation for the film was not easy, not only for Andrew, but also for his partners in the film. Liam Neeson and Adam Driver had to lose a lot of weight. The first lost 10 pounds, the second lost almost 20 pounds. Garfield said that he and Driver were constantly joking on the set. Well, when is it time to deny faith? Is it soon? And then they will feed us?
Sorry, Sebastian, for my impatience.
To get into character, Driver and Garfield spent some time at the St. Buenos Church in Wales. For a week, they took a vow of silence and studied religious texts. The film's consultant priest, James Martin, said, Andrew got to the point where he could out-Jesuit a Jesuit. There were places in the script where he would stop and say, "A Jesuit wouldn't say that," and he would come up with something else. The film adaptation of the novel was a very expected project, and it was very surprising that at the Oscars that year it received only one nomination, for cinematography. And the film was a box office bomb. At the same time, he reached the top 10 films of 2016 according to the American Film Institute. Moreover, Andrew Garfield received the award of the London Film Critics Circle in the category Best British or Irish Actor of the Year for his effort. That time, Andrew played the role of a working-class lad, Desmond Doss, a Seventh-day Adventist who categorically did not accept violence to a living being. According to Mel Gibson, Desmond's son attended the film screening and was moved to tears by Andrew Garfield's accurate portrayal of his father. The actor told that he cried when he read the script for the first time. Andrew Garfield impressed Gibson with his performance in The Social Network. After watching that film, the director realized who should play the main role in his film. According to Gibson, in addition to acting, the film was presented at the Venice Film Festival and received a 10-minute ovation. Later, Hacksaw Ridge received 6 Oscar nominations. Among them was the nomination of Andrew Garfield for Best Actor. In 2017, the biographical drama Breathe was released. Andy Serkis's directorial debut told the real-life story of Robin Cavendish, a lawyer who was ill with polio. He lived a bright life full of adventures despite the fact that he was paralyzed and needed a respirator. Robin actively defended the rights of the persons with disabilities, which earned him the title of Member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. The idea to make the film belonged to the famous producer Jonathan Cavendish. For him, Breathe was not just another project. It was a chance to honor the memory of his wonderful parents, who were the prototypes of the heroes of the film. Andrew approached the role very responsibly. He met with the family of the prototype of his hero, tried to learn as much as possible about him in order to get into the character as best as possible. The actor continued to play even in between takes and learned to breathe and speak, just like Robin Cavendish did, who had to relearn how to speak after he contracted polio. The film received mixed reviews. Critics unanimously said that the story came out too clear. There were moments when the irrefutable optimism of the film made it difficult to believe in its authenticity, but we think they were too strict. Let's not forget that it was a biographical film about love and how to treat difficult situations in life.
Bloggs told me the other day that all our friends were convinced that I'd give up on you.
The following year, Garfield played in the film Under the Silver Lake. It became the first thriller in his career and not the best work of director David Robert Mitchell. Andrew played Sam, a conspiracy theory fan. He was obsessed with the idea and was looking for confirmation of his guesses everywhere, from music to modern literature. And as you know, if you're looking, you'll find it. Despite the fact that the critics were not very enthusiastic, they could not help but admit that Andrew, as always, played very talented. After that, he got a role in Mainstream, the film directed by Gia Coppola, the granddaughter of the great Francis Ford Coppola. The movie tells us the story of how easy it is in our time of the internet and social networks to wake up famous. Critics did not receive the film very positively, but nobody was left emotionless by the charismatic Link performed by Andrew. In 2021, the film The Eyes of Tammy Faye will be released. Director Michael Showalter decided to tell his audience the story of the Baker family, famous TV presenters from 1970 to 1980. Tammy Faye and Jim made a program for Christians. They were incredibly popular until their names had been associated with a huge scandal. Of course, the main star of the film is the dazzling Jessica Chastain. However, Andrew plays his role so sincerely that it is simply impossible not to pay attention to him. Well, speaking about the career of Andrew Garfield, it is impossible to ignore the role that has become iconic: the role of Peter Parker, Spider-Man. While preparing to recreate the Spider-Man universe in his own way, director Mark Webb had no idea who would play the main role. The 50th anniversary of the character was approaching. Mark really wanted that movie tribute to be remembered by critics, to please comic book fans, and to interest people who would just go to cinemas for another spectacular blockbuster. Webb repeatedly said that he did not want to change Sam Raimi's Spider-Man because it was impossible, but he would like to use new ideas and stories to give Spider-Man the opportunity to develop and discover new sides about that character. The list of actors who auditioned for the role of Peter Parker was full of famous names: Robert Pattinson, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Daniel Radcliffe, Zac Efron, Anton Yelchin, and Josh Hutcherson. However, the director chose Andrew. The actor claimed that it was all because of his childhood photo in a Spider-Man costume, which Garfield's agent showed to the studio when the fate of the film was being decided. Webb, explaining his choice, said, "Though his name may be new to many, those who know this young actor's work understand his extraordinary talents. He has a rare combination of intelligence, wit, and humanity. Mark my words, you will love Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker." When Garfield got to try on a Spider-Man costume for the first time, he couldn't stop the tears, because at that moment his old dream came true. And at that time, the main thing was not to screw up. The task was not easy. After Tobey Maguire, the previous performer of Parker to whom comic book fans became accustomed, it was very difficult to prove that he could do no worse. Andrew prepared in his own manner, responsibly, with full plunging into the role. He studied how spiders moved in order to express their habits as realistically as possible. The actor practiced yoga and did Pilates to be as flexible as possible. Andrew performed some tricks on his own. When Peter put on a suit, he stopped being just a guy. He became a real spider, and the actor wanted to convey that as best and plausibly as possible. It was not enough for him just to put on a recognizable red and blue uniform and be complacent. He's too good for superficial acting. It was not easy at all to play a superhero. Garfield took 20 minutes each time to put on a Spider-Man costume for shooting with the help of a costumer. During breaks, the actor rode around New York in his suit and delighted the local kids by playing basketball with them. Sony Pictures knew that the film would be a success and therefore decided not to delay announcing that it planned to release a sequel even before the premiere of the first part. The film was released exactly for the anniversary of the character and showed itself commendable in the box office. It was in the top 10 of the best films of 2012. Everything really turned out very well. The plot was exciting, the special effects were impressive. However, some critics were dissatisfied with the fact that the film paid more attention to the love story than the story of the formation of a legendary character. But weren't those things interconnected? It was time for the second part and everything seemed to be going well, but the actor began to have serious problems with Sony Pictures. The actor had repeatedly had disputes with producers about the development of his character. The situation was aggravated by the behind-the-scenes debates between Sony Pictures and Marvel Entertainment, who endlessly defended their interests, deciding what to do with Spider-Man. Andrew would later comment on the situation as follows: "There are millions of dollars at stake, and that's what guides the ship. It was a big awakening and it hurt. Comic-Con in San Diego is full of grown men and women still in touch with that pure thing the character meant to them. But you add in market forces and test groups and suddenly the focus is less on the soul of it and more on ensuring we make as much money as possible. The company required Andrew to be fully involved in the process, from filming to post-production, but he was no longer willing to participate in events related to the promotion of the film. The box office of the two films were not as impressive as Sony expected. Besides, the second film was sharply criticized due to a weak script. Garfield realized that he could no longer be a Spider. He finished shooting in the second part and decided to say goodbye to the character, despite the fact that he was very special to him. According to Andrew, working on a big-budget project broke his heart, but at the same time helped him grow up. But life made its own adjustments, and in 2021, the internet exploded with photos from the filming of the next part of the superhero movie, and it seems Andrew was back on the case. Never say never. By the way, the film about Peter Parker gave Andrew Garfield something more than an opportunity to touch his favorite comic book universe. He met love. Emma Stone was able to instantly melt the heart of a talented guy as soon as they met on set. A relationship developed. It lasted for a total of about 5 years. Everything was leading to a wedding, however, the couple broke up. For what reason was it? Only they knew. Secrecy and unwillingness to make the personal into public made itself felt, and the actors did not spread on that theme. Little is known about the actor's personal life at all. Relationships are rare. Filming and theater occupy all of his free time. Considering that Andrew is a closed person, building relationships is not an easy task for him, and he is definitely not going to spread rumors about them. But still, in July of 2019, it became known that Andrew had a new relationship. That time, his chosen one was a girl not from the sphere of show business. Garfield fell in love with a 25-year-old medical student, Christine Gabel. The couple was often noticed on walks and joint events with friends, but the fate of their affair was unknown to fans. And now, here are some interesting facts about the actor. Andrew Garfield loves Netflix series and after heavy filming spends most of his time at home at the screen, watching the service's new series. Despite the fact that Garfield starred in the movie The Social Network, he has a rather difficult relationship with Facebook. He doesn't like to spend his free time watching someone else's life. Therefore, the actor does not use any social networks. Andrew is a big fan of skateboards. He has been skateboarding for many years and was even asked by the director of the movie Spider-Man to show Peter Parker with a skateboard in the film.
Hey, it's Peter, right?
Andrew Garfield has a lot of bright roles, both in blockbusters and in festival films. He found the key to the hearts of both serious intellectuals and fans of stories about mutants saving the world. But we are sure that Andrew's brightest role and of course the Oscar are still ahead. On our channel, you can also find the biography of another Spider-Man, Tom Holland. If you click on the video that appeared on your screen, you will be able to find out which roles of this actor, in addition to a friendly neighbor, are worth your attention. You will find out where Tom learned to dance so smartly and also many other facts that a handful of people know about. Click on the icon and watch. That's all we wanted to tell you about Andrew Garfield. It was the Biographer with you today. Like this video and see you very soon. Bye.